Hey, what's going on, guys? I did a couple videos a few weeks ago talking about the different features and items that Temtem could implement to sort of improve overall gameplay enjoyability. With that being said, now I want to focus on the improvements Temtem has already made to the Pokemon formula. A lot of people have been writing Temtem off as a mere Pokemon clone and nothing more, however this is not true. Temtem's clearly Pokemon inspired and has a lot of similarities, but stating that it's a ripoff is just disingenuous. In this video we're going to be exploring the features in Temtem that either improve on the Pokemon formula or are an interesting twist. Some will be minor changes whilst others will be more dramatic ones. Now, disclaimer before we get into this video, it's not to bash Pokemon. I genuinely do think that some of these changes, though small, are something the Pokemon company should actually take note of. These kind of discussions are healthy, and I hope that everyone understands that. But anyways, with that being said, let's just jump in. So first thing I want to talk about is the battle system. Now, I've always been a fan of single battles, and while double battles in Temtem do function great, that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is the lack of RNG coupled with the stamina and hold system. Now, I did a whole video explaining how the battle system works, so I won't go super in depth, but Temtem doesn't have accuracy or evasion or pretty well any sort of chance-based effects when it comes to battling. All moves will always hit, and it's balanced by the stamina system, but more notably the hold system. You can't spam your strongest attack at full accuracy every turn. It's going to dig deep into your stamina and cause you to wait until it can be used again. Even moves that can be spammed per se, like crystal spikes, take a huge chunk of stamina, and to execute it over and over again is not sustainable. In Pokemon, features like evasion, critical hits, paralysis, and confusion do have their own charm when playing through the campaign, but quickly become a hindrance when getting into the competitive scene. I can't count how many battles I've either won or lost in part due to a critical hit or paralysis not allowing someone to attack or whatever. Yes, of course, Pokemon still has skill involved and the risk and reward elements, but the RNG tends to be problematic when close battles are concerned. And also, not to mention the fact that Pokemon has something called damage ranges. So for example, even if you forget about critical hits, you can have an attack that could potentially do, let's say, 50 to 65% of your opponent's health, depending on how the damage calculator rolls. This causes a lot of situations where a potential one-hit KO turns into a two-hit KO, or a two-hit KO turns into a three-hit KO, etc. Now, I'm not saying that this system is terrible by any means. However, I do think that Temtem's steps to sort of mitigate chance by getting rid of these is a great step forward in these types of games. Now, next up is difficulty. Temtem's not Dark Souls or Sekiro or anything, but I do find that it has a better difficulty balance in general than more recent Pokemon titles. I never felt the need to avoid capturing Temtem in fear of leveling too high, or on the other side, I never felt like I needed to sit and grind for 8 hours to be able to defeat the next opponent. One common point against Temtem's difficulty is that you could potentially spam Balm and wait for the enemies to overexert themselves and therefore damage themselves. Though true, Temtem doesn't exactly throw you very much money to buy a lot of Balms, so you're probably not going to be able to sustain that sort of gameplay strategy. You can also do the same thing in Pokemon, so I don't really know why people use that as an argument. It's actually more sustainable in Pokemon because healing and attacking and then healing and then attacking is a lot easier with Pokemon's currency, given the fact that you get a lot of it. Now, that's not to say that Temtem's currency scaling is good, because I have my own issues with that and did a video talking about how it could improve. But the point is that the common criticism of it being easy to sort of grind Balms and then sort of use those to win battles, it's not really a good argument. The dojo leaders in Temtems all have 6 Tems and don't solely use one type, or even primarily in most cases. The first dojo focuses on water and wind, the second fire and nature, and then the third fire, nature, and wind. Then you have the fourth with crystal and toxic. This makes the game a lot less predictable, where you won't be able to just spam one Tem to defeat the entire dojo, much like you can do in a lot of Pokemon gyms. Character customization is another area where Temtem excels against Pokemon, though I would prefer there to be even more customization in an MMO-styled game. I'd like them to add height and weight options, as well as a system where you can sort of change your appearance on the fly. Despite these shortcomings, however, Temtem does give you a plethora of options when it comes to customizing your player. There are a lot more customization options rather than in Swish, where you are basically the same person with slightly lighter hair or a slightly darker skin tone. The characters in Temtem make you feel unique from one another, and I'd like this feature to be more fleshed out over the next coming updates. Now, the rest of these are going to be some minor changes that Temtem made, but they do go a long way. I'd like to talk about the ranked matchmaking / TMR system, the MMO aspect, the future Battle Frontier-esque area, etc. But I don't feel comfortable using those as arguments right now, because they're either not fully implemented or they're not fleshed out to where they would be because the game's in early access. It just leads to poor argumentation all around when going over the what ifs and the whens. So the first minor change I appreciate, and perhaps it's not so minor depending on how you look at it, is the fact that you can actually see your individual SVs and TVs, or effort values and individual values. No longer do you have to use a third-party app to get an exact number. All you have to do is go to your Tem, check it out, and you're good to go. You don't have to count on paper when you're TV training or EV training, which TV and EVs are basically the same thing. It just shows you them. It's a nice fix that's so small, but it goes a long way. Another small change is a removal of natures. Now, the idea behind natures are kind of cool, but when you combine that with the fact that they're unchangeable, and then you mix that with the system that already has IVs and EVs, etc., it gets sort of convoluted, and honestly, I don't feel like they add enough to the game to really justify their existence. EVs and IVs already make each monster different, so adding an extra layer of that just seems arbitrary. Temtem also changes the way that egg groups work, which I think is a really huge deal, but some of you might think it's not. But in Pokemon, there are a bunch of different egg groups, from monster to water to whatever. Temtem makes it simple. If you share a type, you can breed. End of story. While I see what Pokemon was trying to go for with these egg groups, trying to make it more realistic, I mean, if you forget the fact that Skitty can breed with Wailord. But the types just make it 10 times easier to remember who can breed with who and how egg moves will work and such. It just makes it so much easier and so much simpler. Oh, I have a fire type? Let's breed it with another fire type. That's it. There's no more needing to look up egg groups on the internet. You can just start breeding. Temtem also fixes the way that rare candies work. In Pokemon, if you have a rare candy, it levels you up and then sets the XP to 0 for whatever the next level is. Whilst Temtem, they give you the exact amount of XP that your level is worth. So if it costs 4,000 XP to level up from start to finish of that level, you'll gain 4,000 XP. So if you're halfway through the level, you'll be about halfway through the next level. It's a really small touch, but it doesn't go unnoticed for me. Now, the last thing's a little bit small but noteworthy, and it's the way that it handles evolution cancellation. In Pokemon, if your Mon is going to evolve, you'll have to press B every single time it levels up unless you give it an Everstone to hold, which wastes your held item slot. In Temtem, all you have to do is hold down the button to cancel once, and that's it. Every subsequent level, you do not have to worry about it. To evolve your Temtem, you simply go to the summary of that Temtem and then hit a button, and that's it, it'll evolve. Again, that's another thing that seems rather minor, but it really does go a long way, and it shows that Crema was paying attention to these previous systems that are honestly quite outdated. In many ways, it feels like Game Freak kind of just forgot or just didn't really think about some of the more core features that may have aged poorly, like the previously mentioned Everstone gimmick or the way rare candies work, but I can definitely appreciate how Temtem takes these mechanics and sort of tweaks them to be a lot more user-friendly. There were a lot more points I wanted to go over, but like I said previously, the early access nature of the game sort of prevents me from using those other incomplete features as full-fledged arguments just yet. Perhaps at full launch, I'll do like a sequel to this video. Now, I want to know what you guys think. I know there's probably some things that I missed. What kind of improvements do you think that Temtem made to the Pokemon formula, and what kind of things do you think Temtem could learn from Pokemon? Perhaps there's other features that maybe Pokemon does better. Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to see people's opinions. I'm sure there's something out there that I missed. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll be covering the upcoming Kisiwa update in depth, so make sure to subscribe and come along for the ride. You can also follow me on Twitter at GymLeaderEd, or if you want to get more personal, we got a subscriber Discord that you can check out. Links are all in the description. Until next time, guys, peace.